Hi everyone, is this loud enough? Don't usually talk into microphones, this is a bit new for me. So I'm an entrepreneur who said that I would never become an entrepreneur. My parents have been in business 15 years. They have an automotive garage in Newmarket. I've seen the struggles that they've gone through and said that I would never do that to myself. My first job when I was 13 was for another entrepreneur who is now very successful in Aurora Promotions, which is a promotional marketing company here. I started working there after high school. I'd walk there. I was an assistant. I got a lot of exposure to everything that she did in terms of learning QuickBooks, doing quotes for people, doing their deposits. She let me see every aspect of the business. Again, decided I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. The next job that I worked for was another promotional marketing company. Same thing, didn't want to do it. Didn't want the hassle, didn't want the headaches, didn't want to chase people for money, didn't want the long hours, decided I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. While doing this, I took every opportunity that I could in school, every opportunity that I could with my parents' business, and those opportunities all led me to this point. So I'm going to walk you a bit through the path that led me here, and how you should not take yourself so seriously, especially when you're younger, when you don't know what you want to do. Putting that idea that you don't want to do something really in your head when you haven't made that decision yet. Opportunity is probably the biggest thing that led me to this point. So working in the businesses for promotional marketing, I learned a lot. I then went into IT, where I learned, I got a bunch of ideas going at the same time. When you're an entrepreneur in a small business, you wear all the hats. And when you work for a small business, you usually end up wearing a lot of hats as well. In the IT company, I was the first full-time employee, then helped him grow that company to a couple of employees, and now he's got, I think, 25 plus. But at the time, I was doing the customer service, the accounts payable and receivable, the dispatch of the technicians. I was doing level 1 support because we were so busy that the technicians couldn't handle it. And then I started taking on his marketing. I was doing marketing, I was doing cold calls, I was walking around trying to sell his services, preparing all the materials. I got to do everything that an entrepreneur does without the burden of entrepreneurship. Again, decided I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. Life happens, and what happened at that point was I got separated from my partner of 6 years. I ended up moving back home with my parents. And then I a couple months later, quit that IT job. I had got them a big contract and expected a raise, and when I went in there to ask for the raise, they didn't give it to me, and I said, here's my month's notice. I'll help you train someone, I'll help you transition, because I know small businesses, it's hard to find good people, I'll give you a month. And I left, and I moved back home with no prospects, no job, no significant other, and got the opportunity to work for my parents. And it's opportunities and keeping an eye out for opportunities that really got me to this point. So they took me in, I revamped their marketing. I had done a bit of web design with the IT company in terms of their marketing, helped them do that, and I ended up helping them save them $20,000 that year in unnecessary expenses that they didn't know were accumulating. Because when you're an entrepreneur and you wear the hats, you get caught up, and you don't often see these things that you're spending money on. Working for them, the opportunity came up that a colleague of my mother's, she ran her own business and needed a website. And she said, well, if you're doing it for them, why don't you come do it for me? The lady that does mine is retiring. She introduced me to this woman who ran a virtual administrative business for about 20 years in Newmarket, Aurora, and was retiring. And, at first she didn't want to meet with me. She said, I'm not planning on handing my business over to anyone. I don't want to sell it. I just want to, wish my clients well and wish them on their way. And I persisted. And I said, I'm taking a month, I'm doing a month in Europe because I've got nothing else to do. So I did a month in Europe, and I said, when I come back, I'd love to have a coffee with you and see the opportunities that are there. And she agreed. And so we met up, she took me under her wing, she mentored me a bit, and she didn't give me her clients, but she gave me a warm introduction to all of them. So I started with about 11 clients. I was working full-time at the shop, doing their marketing, working the front desk, cleaning the toilets, whatever I needed to do to help them get through the day and to make money for myself. And I did the side hustle. I did the side hustle for about 6 months. At that point, I moved things so that I was about part-time at both, and then about a couple months later, it took off full-time. Now in my business, I've promoted myself to founder and CEO because I like the title, and you can do that. And I have a team. And growing the team was one of the hardest decisions that I've had to make, and one of the hardest things that I've been through in my business. Because it's not just about you anymore. If you don't follow up with your clients and you don't get paid, your people don't get paid and they will get paid. And also, you have to learn then to trust and to delegate and to rely on people who are not yourself in your business, which is something that you've grown. And I don't have kids, I have a business. It's not a one or the other situation, but for me, that's what it is. My business is my baby, and giving it over to people to represent and to manage was a big thing for me. And Georgie is one of my amazing people, and she's been, my right-hand girl. And I think it's such a nice experience to have someone who cares about your business as much as you. And when you go through hiring, which I've done this year, at one point I had a team of 5, now we're down to a team of 3. You learn a lot about yourself going through the process. You learn a lot about trusting your gut when you're hiring these people, when you're interviewing them. And you learn what you really value as well. So for our company, we really value local, green, so we work with health, wellness, fitness, eco-friendly, sustainability. So people that I work with, I like them to have those interests. And also authentic. So we pride ourselves on authentic marketing. So we're not about the numbers, we're not about how many followers and likes you have, we're about real engagement and really what you can do for others. And your people that work with you have to align with that. I don't know where else to go with this. I can maybe finish early and let the questions come, but basically I just want to say to keep an eye out for any opportunities that present themselves. When I was going through high school, I took every single course that I could so that I could have every single opportunity at university. Didn't know what I wanted to do, just knew it wasn't going to be an entrepreneur. But I got the opportunity to go to networking groups to sub. So I've been doing BNI and Pro since I was 16. I've been doing graphic design since I was 16. Anything that they asked me to do, if I didn't know how to do it, I would learn how to do it. See if I liked it or not. I wouldn't say no, depending. But you have to see what you like and you have to see what those kind of bring to you. And everything accumulated to this one point of having the exposure to local entrepreneurs and networking groups and knowing a bunch of people before I even launched the business. So it was a really easy transition once it happened. And I think that's the best way to step into it, is don't force yourself. It has to be something that you love, that you have experience in, that you're passionate about. And ultimately, I'm doing this because I love teaching. And I considered teachers college, and I went back to my high school and elementary school to see if I liked it. I shadowed them for the day to see if I wanted to do it. And I did. I'm not a fan of kids, and I don't know how teachers do it. I don't know how they put up with that every day in the classroom. And I walked out of there, and my favorite teacher winked at me, and she knew that wasn't for me either. But what I want to do is teach people who want to learn something. And there's no more eager people than entrepreneurs and small business owners, because it is your life, it is your passion. And that's ultimately what I do, is I provide services, but I want only to work with people who are really engaged in it and want to benefit themselves and benefit their community. And I love sharing in that. So that's me.